in England?
He's a refugee because the British authorities have accepted that if he went back to India or was returned to India, he would be subjected to torture, persecution, or possibly murdered. He arrived in the United Kingdom in 1999, December of 1999. Some 9 months or so later, September 2000, he was granted political asylum. He was granted asylum on the basis that if he was returned under the 1951 Convention to India, he would be persecuted and would be tortured.
Mm-hmm. And now, what is the situation of him?
The situation now is that having been granted political asylum in the United Kingdom, which is an EU country, in 2013 he was given a travel document which allowed him to travel under the safety of the banner of a refugee in the United Kingdom, a EU country, to travel anywhere in the world except India. If he travels to India, of course his political refugee status would be withdrawn, but he's allowed to travel anywhere else. So effectively what has happened is that Interpol has arrested him in Portugal, and India is now trying to seek his extradition through the back door, because that Interpol warrant was not executed in the United Kingdom. It's a warrant that was issued in 2012, some 13 years or so after he'd been granted political asylum in the United Kingdom. And that has a very serious impact on European states, which means that if an individual is granted asylum or refugee status, it could be anybody from anywhere in the world fleeing a regime that is torturing, murdering and killing its subjects. They could be fleeing, granted refugee status in a European country, and that European country gives that individual a travel document to travel, say for the country from which it's being protected, and is then through the back door go somewhere else, or is allowed to go somewhere else by virtue of the travel document, is then arrested by Interpol on the say-so of a government that from which the government that granted asylum is protecting that individual. So it has serious impacts on freedom of movement in Europe.
So what you are telling me is that the thing that Portuguese authorities did is illegal?
Well, I take the view that Portugal is part of the 1951 Convention. They're a signatory to it. They're also signatory to the European Community and the freedom of movement. So what the Portuguese authorities effectively have done, restricted that right of freedom of movement of individuals within the European state. So there's a European country that has recognized and accepted that this is a man who is fearful. If he's returned to India, he would be subjected to torture, murder, persecution, and so forth. And yet, one European country has accepted that, granted him asylum, allowed him to travel to another European country, and that European country has decided, actually, we think we will have him arrested, and Interpol arrests him, and have started a legal process and given the Indian authorities the possibility of him being extradited to India. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Indians say he's a terrorist.
Well, India says a lot of people are terrorists. Anybody who dissents or disagrees with India, disagrees with their torture, disagrees with their persecution, disagrees with the extrajudicial killings, disagrees with their record on human rights, disagrees with internment, disagrees with the killing of women and children, disagrees with the rapes of women, of course that individual is going to be considered a terrorist by that country. And what India is actually saying to these people is, it doesn't matter wherever in the world you may go, if you speak out against us, we'll come and get you. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, I think, for any individual and for any country. And particularly in Europe, if you're all signatories to one treaty, then we should be upholding that treaty.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.